What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Sports Talk on Tap video. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether it be NFL, NHL, MLB, or NBA, games, news, highlights, all that fun stuff. And in today's NFL episode, also, happy Friday to everyone that celebrates. It's a great day. Weekend is basically upon us. Friday night lights. It's going to be fun. But with that being said, with training camp, officially underway for basically every team, we figured we'd kind of look and give like the top five offensive rookie and defensive rookie of the year favorites and, guys that we think will make immediate impacts to their team to, bring them from maybe, out of the dumpster to a relevant team, from a relevant team to get them over the hump. However it may be, because obviously offensive and defensive rookie of the years take the league by storm and, make a huge impact in a positive way for their teams. Nick, with that being said, I think it's only fair we start offense first. But for this list, I feel like I'd like to start at one and then work down because I'm more curious, as we get down, maybe the high echelon names, we don't, say, because I feel like maybe 1 and 2 were probably going to be the same. Maybe top 3, or I don't know. We'll see. But I'm curious where you have at number 1, because my number 1 is kind of boring, vanilla, and I'm wondering if you have the same.
My number 1 is Caleb Williams. I think it's pretty easy,
Yeah.
Pretty easy pick. He's going to be the starter day one. They built that team for him. I think that if that's not your, number 1 rookie of the year or offensive rookie of the year pick, you haven't really been paying attention to football. But
or they're just trying to be different kind of pick.
Right. You're just trying to win more money.
Yeah,
than somebody else.
The situation is by far, I would say, the best weapons around someone that is starting because, guys obviously Drake May's situation is good, but he's not starting. I feel like JJ's situation would be interesting, but he's not starting. So Caleb going to be one of the few QBs to actually start right out of the gate, and the weapons he has with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, who may also appear on your list, may not, but either way, highly touted prospect in a defense that was top 5 the second half of the season. So, number 1 overall pick for the reason. I feel like even with all the hype already is giving him a huge favorite, because even if he performs okay, I think that would arguably be enough to get it to him, just because, of all the hype he's had and surrounded with it. If he has a couple of good games, the media will run with it kind of situation, especially in a big landscape like Chicago. But it could also be a bad thing, if he has a game where he throws 3 picks, the media could also run away with that. And then there could be, some narratives coming out. But with that being said, number 1 overall pick, a lot of talent. The weapons are there for him, unlike Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick last year. So number 1 for me, Caleb, as well for you, Nick. Number 2, we may be different. We may not be, but I'm curious who you have.
I don't think we'll be different. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's, talking about situations for receivers, he might be in the second best situation for, rookie wide receivers, because he's got pretty solid quarterback. He's obviously not going to a team like the Chiefs, but he's the most NFL-ready receiver out of, I think, all of these receivers. I think he could have gone top 5 last year if he was eligible for the draft. There was talks of him even potentially going number 1 overall to the Bears. So I think he should be the number 2, betting favorite, number 2 pick, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we're 2 for 2 so far. It's rare, but, part of the reason why the Cardinals were so bad was because Kyler Murray missed the first half of the season. And say what you want about Kyler Murray, video games or whatever, he may not be a winning quarterback, but he's a good quarterback that can extend plays, just make plays happen. And him and Marvin Harrison Jr. have a connection from day one, mainly because Marvin Harrison is his go-to wide receiver 1 now. And Kyler Murray with D-Hop, whoever it may be, knows how to deliver the ball. And he's a solid quarterback that can just get a receiver the ball. And Marvin Harrison will be, arguably already be top 10 in receiving yards this season. He's been go-to number one. He's a good QB throwing him the ball. And I think Kyler Murray's going to be motivated, but because I feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a dog that wants to win, and I think Kyler Murray and him are going to have a strong connection. And I think Kyler Murray, this may also be a boom fantasy season for him that people may be sleeping on. Obviously, his rushing upside's crazy, but now after losing D-Hop, who is also kind of fading away just due to his age and the injuries have kind of got to him, Marvin Harrison Jr. He could be the a top 3 receiver in this league in like couple of years. So when you get that kind of talent, your stock is going to rise. So hard agree there. So we're 2 for 2 so far. Caleb 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. 2. Number 3, Nick, who's your third spot?
I got the other Chicago Bears rookie, Rome Odunze. I think he could very well work his way up the ladder in that receiver room. He definitely has, the what do you call it? The guidance in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, 2 really good receivers, veteran guys who have been here. Keenan Allen, obviously a little bit more, but I think, I worry about Keenan Allen's health just because we saw last year, like it was kind of scary. And so if he's for whatever reason goes down or just isn't playing well, I think Rome Odunze is going to get a lot of snaps. He's probably getting a lot of reps with Caleb Williams. They're both coming in, both top 10 picks. So they've kind of got that, connection already in just where they were drafted. So I think he's obviously a super talented receiver. He was, I believe, the second receiver off the board. So I think I could be crazy because that receiver room is just so stacked that they might not need to use him as much as, some of these other teams would use him. Like if the Patriots had Rome Odunze, he'd automatically be their one. But I still think he has crazy good talent, and really being the wide receiver 3 on that team is going to help him a lot because when he gets on the field and, those spread offenses and he's got the third cornerback matched up on him, he could win a lot of those matchups.
I like the I'll just say this. Odunze wasn't in my top 5, mainly just because I always just get nervous. Like when you do say wide receiver 3, there's a lot of upside there. Just because, the cornerbacks are focusing their attention on DJ Moore and on Keenan Allen. But at the end of the day, I just get spooked out because it is a wide receiver 3, and I think he'll be kind of like, in fantasy terms, I think he'll, like any receiver, but I think especially with a guy like him, boom or bust weeks. It's going to be a week where I could see him going for 100 yards and maybe a touchdown, but there could also be weeks where he only gets 2 catches for 15 yards just because there's a lot of mouths to feed. You have DeAndre Swift coming out of the backfield who can catch. You have DJ Moore who's going to get a lot of targets. And Keenan Allen kind of, when he's on the field, eats up a lot of that short game intermediate routes. So Odunze might be more of a deep threat I feel like, those kind of can be boom or bust. But he has the talent too. But, there's just so much going on in that offense. And, at the end of the day, we have him at number 1, but, Caleb Williams, can he deliver the ball to all 3 of them at, a good rate will remain to be seen. I'm just curious how they kind of use him, but there's just going to be a lot of mouths to feed. So he's going to be boom or bust for me. So that's why, overall, he may have a better season than some of these guys. I just think the ceiling with some of these guys I had were higher than him, if that makes sense, for offensive rookie of the year chances. I think he might have more receiving yards than some, but just kind of, it's going to be 2 boom or bust for me to think he'll be consistent enough just being the third option on that team to be able to win a lot,
That's okay.
Solid pick, though, because, this is a good one. My number 3, I'm going down the board, and I am going to, I think it was pick 25 or whatever. They traded up to get him. I'm going with Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Kansas City's deep passing game is going to come back this year, and I think it's going to be scary hours for a lot of teams because their offense did get better. It's training camp, but the clips just already seeing Mahomes and that connection. I think it's going to be dangerous, and Mahomes just knows how to deliver the ball to anyone, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs passing game had a lot to be desired last year, even despite winning the Super Bowl. Mahomes just made it work. But, you know, a 35-year-old Travis Kelce, you know, shouldn't be your wide receiver one. And Rashid Rice, he's solid. I think he's going to be the perfect number 2. But also his off the field issues, can't rely on him. But if he's on the field, I think having him and then Xavier Worthy, Mahomes will just deliver the balls to his star wide receivers, and I think Xavier Worthy will light up the league by storm and bring back the Kansas City Chiefs offense back to top 5. Mahomes will be back to an MVP candidate just with those passing touchdowns and yards going up with a deep threat like Xavier Worthy, who won't be the direct Tyreek Hill replacement because, you know, no one's going to be Tyreek. Tyreek's just a different breed. But he's going to bring back a part of the Chiefs offense that hasn't been there the last 2 years, despite winning 2 Super Bowls. So I think the Chiefs will even be more highlight reel with Xavier Worthy coming in. So he's my 3rd.
Yeah, that makes sense. That offense is built for speed, and that's kind of what they're getting back to.
Yeah.
With him in Hollywood.
Yeah. So that's my number 3, Nick. And now we go to your number 4.
My number 4 is another receiver that got drafted to a team with a good quarterback. So pretty good situation, but a team that didn't really have an established, wide receiver 1. I have Keon Coleman being kind of a dark horse. He's on the lower half of my list because of that. He was picked high 2nd round. I think it was the first pick in the 2nd round, 1st or 2nd pick. So late 1st rounder, if you want to call it, whatever. But I think he has all the talent in the world to become that team's wide receiver 1 if he really steps up. He seems like a really personable guy, like really likable guy in the locker room. And we've seen the athletic freak that he was at Florida State. So if he can put it all together with Josh Allen in year 1, I think he has a good chance of winning Rookie of the Year just because it does take the guys around you. And if you have a guy like Josh Allen giving you the ball, you're going to get good touches, good chances, good scoring opportunities, everything you need to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I exactly had Keon Coleman at number 4 on my list too. Like pretty much all you said. And I think the Bills need a wide receiver 1. Josh Allen will get the ball out to his guys, no matter who it is. You saw Khalil Shakir light up the second half. I think there's going to be early opportunity elsewhere because a lot of teams, will probably be focusing on Shakir as the number 1. But Keon Coleman, like you said, has the talent too. He'll be still facing matchups one-on-one with Shakir, maybe Kincaid, again, facing the majority of game planning. And early on, I think Keon Coleman can assert himself. And when you have a guy like Josh Allen, arguably the 2nd best quarterback in the league, throwing you the ball, you're going to, get yours. And I think as long as, he catches it, there's going to be opportunities. I think he'll be just fine. And like you said, they're looking for an alpha wide receiver 1, and I think he can be that. And they traded back and got him in the 2nd round, even though that said first pick, 2nd round. I think there's a lot of potential there. So both of us had Keon Coleman number 4. So we are 4 for 4, right? Or 3 for 4. Now, Nick, who is your final one to round up your top 5 favorites?
All right. My last one, it kind of hurt me to put this, but I had to give him the respect. Number 2 pick, Jaden Daniels. It's going to be really, really tough for him to win it just because of the situation he's in. And, Washington is just kind of a dump. But if he puts on a show like he did at LSU where he shows off his legs and what he can do with his arm, and, Terry McLaurin, maybe they trade for Brandon Ayuk, I don't know. But if he can put on that show that he put on at LSU and be that, first team All-American Heisman, I think he has a good shot at winning Rookie of the Year, but it's going to be so tough with that situation. Like he doesn't really have an offensive line. The defense is really shaky. He doesn't have Taylor McLaurin as a top weapon, who I think is one of the more underrated receivers in the league. But again, you need an offensive line to be able to get the ball to your guys. So he's got to be, I can't just have one quarterback on here. So that's my other quarterback because he's really going to be the only day 1 starter, I feel like, unless Michael Penix starts for Kirk. But I don't think I don't think JJ McCarthy.
I did see videos. Kirk is out there practicing, so unless Michael Penix won't win the job. So no, it's pretty much them. I like the pick in a way, but I also hate it just because the situation, it just reminds me of him just kind of getting thrown into the fire like a Bryce Young. But hopefully he can overcome it. And if he does, then he'll for sure be a top candidate to win Rookie of the Year, just given how the situation isn't nearly as good as some of these other teams. I almost went with another QB, but I just feel like the only other day one star is going to be Bo Nix, and I just don't think Bo Nix will, be that. So I went with my number 5, a sleeper, definitely. Later in the first round, I think was the last pick. Give me Xavier Legette of the Carolina Panthers. So I ended on a streak of 4 wide receivers after Caleb. But similar to Buffalo, Carolina's wide receiver 1 last year was 34-year-old receiver Adam Thielen. And even then, there are actually rumors that he might be getting cut or just waived, maybe to, come home. I saw he was working out JJ McCarthy, and we need a wide receiver 3, so that would be kind of clutch. Fingers crossed on that. But Carolina needed an alpha. They traded for Deontay Johnson, who I think will be a perfect wide receiver 2. But similar to Buffalo, they need that wide receiver 1. And Xavier Legette, with just given his size, strength, athleticism, you look at his highlights, reminds me of a DK Metcalf type that I think can just, take the league by storm, be a big body for Bryce Young to get the ball to, a big target. And I think if I have Carolina being good, some of these other picks have to flow with it. And I think Xavier Legette being, a surprise 800-plus yard receiver right out of the gate, I think can be enough to, make him squeeze this list and, get some consideration just for, helping transform this Carolina offense into a competent offense that averaged 14 points per game last year.
All right. I'll let you ride your Carolina wave. I won't hate on you for that.
Yeah,
should we get into are we doing defense too?
Yeah, so we'll get into defense to round it up. Maybe, not too many explanations, but we'll start at 5 and work our way to 1 just because the number 1 or top choice, whoever we may have, may not be that obvious, as obviously Caleb Williams that be, because the first defensive player wasn't taken until pick 15. I guess I'll start. My number 5 will be Terrion Arnold of the Detroit Lions. If this Lions defense wants to get better, guys like him, Carlton Davis, who they traded for, are going to have to make the secondary much more competent. You added DJ Reader up front and just kind of getting anyone in the passing game. I think a cornerback can make an immediate impact to this Lions team to make them a solidified Super Bowl contender. And if Terrion Arnold from Alabama can just, make a positive impact immediately, it won't go unrecognized, as the Lions are going to be a team to watch out for. And I think he'll get his credit and, be a sleeper to win this award.
I also have Terrion Arnold at 5, so it's kind of we're still rolling here, but I think he's going to be a huge contributor to that, much needed improved secondary. So hopefully
him and Carlton Davis, we'll see.
Yeah, Carlton Davis is kind of the veteran on that side, and then he can be kind of the young prodigy, young prospect.
Yeah, and he doesn't need to be a Sauce Gardner, Rookie of the Year. Just make an immediate impact quickly. Number 4, kind of in similar vein, a team that has high expectations, big media market that needs help in the secondary. Give me Quinyon Mitchell of the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Eagles want to get back to being a huge threat, like Nick, I know you're super high on them. That secondary need a lot of help. James Bradbury was toast last year. Darius Slay took a step back in his game, and he's only going to be another year older. So they need someone in the secondary to step up. And if Quinyon Mitchell can be part of that, then it won't go unrecognized, because the Eagles are a big market. They're on a lot of primetime games. And if he can make some plays and just, be a solid cornerback, that also won't go unrecognized. I know unless you have a Sauce Gardner type season, this isn't like, a huge cornerback award. And it's just tougher to, make a lot of plays unless it's like interceptions or stuff. But I think they'll have a solid year to help the Eagles bounce back in the secondary and to make them look more competent. So give me Quinyon Mitchell at my number 4 spot.
All right. I do have Quinyon Mitchell on my list, but he's not my number 4. My number 4 is going to be Jared Verse of, I believe, the LA Rams.
Yes,
he was one of the higher, defensive pass rushing prospects that, kind of dropped in the draft, I think, a little bit, just due to the heavy, offense, top 14 picks, like you just said, being picked on offense, that kind of caused him to drop a little bit. But I still think, with an absent um, Aaron Donald, that team's going to be looking for a pass rusher now, and this is pretty much his perfect time to step in and become that quarterback pressure, pass rusher, real defensive line threat for the Rams now that Aaron Donald's out. So I think he's going to thrive in that situation. I think, I'm high on the Rams, so I think, they're going to be a little better than maybe you predict them to be without Aaron Donald, but that's my number 4 pick.
Yeah, I agree. Jared Verse, I think, huge opportunity there. My number 3, though, number 3 for me, I'm going to go with Byron Murphy, the second out of Texas that was with Seattle. I think teaming him up with Mike McDonald of the Ravens, former DC that led them to the best defense in football last season. I think it's going to be a blessing. I love Byron Murphy coming out of the draft. I think he's just going to be a warrior, not an Aaron Donald, type of impact, just because that's a lot to ask. But he just, is going to be such a beast in this league, and obviously was a huge part for why Texas was, a top team last year in college football, and their defense was, so touted up front. I love that pairing, getting a defensive mind with one of the best defensive players in football. And I just think Byron Murphy is going to help that Seattle defensive line really take that next step. I believe they also traded for someone midseason last year. I believe it was Leonard Williams of the Giants. So him on the end, Byron Murphy in the middle. I think that's going to be a train wreck to look out for. And if Seattle stays in the playoff race, I think a big part will be that defense led by Mike McDonald, just because I kind of know what that offense is with Geno Smith, DK, Tyler. Maybe Jajigba can take another step in his game, which would be cool to see. But with that being said, overall, Byron Murphy, I loved him coming out of the draft, and I think he'll be an immediate impact. So I have him at my number 3.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to put him on my top 5. He's probably like the first guy out. I was really considering him at 4 or 5, but I kind of just put him on the outside. But I still like that.
So that means someone
he's going to be an instant impact. That
means someone on your list that's high up I missed out on, I think. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so who's your number 3?
Maybe it's this number 3 pick, because I think my 2 and 1 you both have on your list. So it's probably going to be this one. I have Laiatu Latu at number 3. He was kind of like the biggest worry for him in the draft was his injury history, because he had a bad, neck injury that people were wondering about, like if he could even play football when it happened again. But when he's on the field, he's a game wrecker. And so I think Indianapolis, got a steal in him, because again, he was another guy that could have gone, much higher than he did. So I think, pass rushers and DBs are usually like the top guys to win Rookie of the Year. Like, you don't see a ton of, defensive tackles, or, every now and then you'll see like a safety or a middle linebacker win it, but it's usually guys who get sacks or guys who get picks. So that's kind of why I have Latu at 3, because I think, he's going to be 10 plus sacks this year. So if he can get to that threshold, then I think he's going to be in the finalists for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, no, I liked that pick. Overall, he was definitely a guy I left out. But he probably would have been one of the first ones. But yeah, I think these other guys, there's more opportunity, and I think there'll be opportunity with the Colts. But just not sure how much he'll play kind of right out of the gate situation. But it's a good pick. My number 2, guy you had at number 4. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, though. Jared Verse of the LA Rams. I think losing Aaron Donald, someone's going to need to step up. And I kind of overlooked this when talking about the Rams. It still doesn't change how I think they're going to do throughout the season. But it wouldn't surprise me if he gets 8 plus sacks immediately, just because he was a highly touted top 10 pick coming out of Florida State. And then obviously, it went offense all the way through. But Jared Verse is going to be a dog. He was obviously a big reason why Florida State went undefeated. Still missed the college football playoff somehow. Still can't get over that. But with that being said, Jared Verse is going to be a dog. And like you said, Rams there's a lot of opportunity there. Their defense, besides from Aaron Donald, was just a bunch of rookies and late picks that kind of weren't really anything yet. So and it was a young defense, and I think Jared Verse will help contribute to a positive way and make up partially for the loss of Aaron Donald. It's going to take more than him, but I think he'll be really good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, then I know we're at 2 right now, but I think we both have the consensus number 1. I think we both agreed on the number 1. But Jared Verse was your number 2,
well,
correct?
Yeah, I mean everyone. Yeah. Who's your 2? Quinion?
My number 2 guy you already mentioned, like I said before, he was on my list. I have Quinion Mitchell at 2. I think he's going to have a huge impact for the Eagles. And like you said, that secondary, that was really god awful at the end of last year, and we saw it in the playoffs. They added in the secondary twice in him and Cooper DeJean. So I think they're both going to develop into really solid NFL.
Cooper DeJean, I have a lot of questions about. The more I've
watched,
he's
probably more questionable than Quinion Mitchell, which is why I didn't have him on this list. And just like, can Cooper DeJean's play style keep up in the NFL? We'll see. But I think Quinion Mitchell.
And even then, you look at the Big Ten receivers he was going up against. Nothing really special.
Other than Marvin Harrison Jr., really, that was it.
Yeah, and but we'll see what he can do. I like that pick though. Obviously, I had him at number 4. But with that being said, that brings us to number 1, where we do have the same, I believe. Obviously, mine. People can call it a homer pick if they want. I don't really care. I love this guy. Dallas Turner of the Minnesota Vikings, edge rusher from Alabama. I think just pure talent. He was the best. He was projected top 8 to the Falcons mostly. But the Vikings were able to trade up for him at pick 17. The dude's just going to be a dog. And I love the pairing with him and Brian Flores. B-Flow just knows how to coach players, and obviously, Brian Flores wanted him, or else they wouldn't have gotten him. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity on that other side. I know on one side you have Jonathan Grenard, who got like 12 and a half sacks last season, so that'll be a good pairing to go with. And on the other side, I think in the 3-4 is going to be a perfect spot for Dallas Turner to get a lot of opportunity. You have edge rushers, hybrid linebackers like Van Ginkel that you can use at that spot, but there's going to be definitely a lot of Dallas Turner, and I think he's going to make a immediate impact. I'm curious, the one problem with him was, kind of what pass rushing moves can he add, because he would just kind of bulldoze people over in college. So kind of what does he add to his package to make him a dual threat in the pass rushing game? But overall, just an absolute stud. So I'm excited to see him play, and a big reason why I think the Vikings defense maybe could elevate from the 15th spot last year to maybe around the top 10, although unfortunately the injuries in training camp have made it a weak quarterback room. So we need to see the pass rush perform if they want to be solid.
Yep. As you can see here, I also have Dallas Turner at 1. He was I was shocked that he fell out of the top 10 when he did, and especially when Atlanta had a chance to pick him and they took Michael Penix, which is like we still say, like, what are you doing there? Right.
Thank you, Atlanta.
So Vikings fans can all thank Atlanta for that, because he was really it seemed like the perfect fit. They needed a pass rusher. He was, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the draft. A pass rusher who, like I mentioned with Laiatu Latu, 10-plus sacks is probably going to get you in that Defensive Rookie of the Year finalist. I think Dallas Turner, he might be a lock for 10 sacks. Obviously, you got to wait and see, but I think he's going to, like you just said, have an immediate impact on the defensive side of the football with Brian Flores. Brian Flores has a brand new toy to play with. So it's going to be exciting to watch. Minnesota fans, you got another young stud rookie. You had Jefferson. You got J.J. McCarthy to look forward to, but this year you got Dallas Turner to look forward to watch. So
if he's on the field, Jordan Addison too. Yeah. We'll see. I'm excited to see him play. Like I said, him and Grenard could be special. And then obviously, we'll see what happens as, they approach, I'm excited. Brian Flores obviously is going to be very aggressive. So Dallas Turner also may just get some free sacks off of free blitzes where, they send the house and, he's just there and, an offensive line misses a block. So that will, also could just help the base stats as we approach the regular season. Though this is going to be fun. But let us know in the comments. We're curious. Did we miss anyone? Did we overrate? Did we underrate anyone? Whose list do you guys think was better? Let us know in the comments below. But as always, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. This is our top 5 favorites for offensive rookie and defensive rookie of the year. But, we're always curious, how these lists will play out as the season gets along and how close we were, how off we were on some of these guys. Because we're definitely going to have some hits and some misses, but it will be fun. But with that being said, happy Friday to everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.